Welcome back to In the Kitchen with Grace. Today I am doing a super easy, delicious blueberry peach cobbler in the crock pot. A super easy dessert recipe that works great for take-alongs, get-togethers, potlucks, and it makes a dessert for dinner just lickety-split. All right, so what I love about this recipe is you can interchange the kinds of fruit that you use. Today I'm doing blueberry peach. I am going to use some fresh blueberries, and I have some frozen Firestone peach slices and some canned, frozen and drained, they're drained, Firestone peach slices. I've got about 2.5 cups of peaches and maybe 2 cups of blueberries that we're going to use today. And as we put this together in our slow cooker, I'm going to the first step is to kind of get your fruit blended together and resting in their glaze, I guess you could call it. The second step is to prepare the cobbler breading that we're going to actually put as the first layer in our crock pot. Then we put the fruit on, and then we pour buttermilk on top. Oh my gosh. You guys, I am smelling this already, and I haven't even gotten started. All right, so to prepare your fruit, you're gonna put your fruit into a bowl, and again, you can interchange this. Cherries, strawberries, whatever you wanna use, go for it. I personally love the blueberry peach combination. I'm gonna sprinkle in my blueberries. If you're using fresh fruit, again, keep an eye out in case there's a rare one that doesn't look so hot, you can pluck it out. Mine look great. Okay, we are going to add in 3 teaspoons of sugar. Tablespoons, sorry, not teaspoons, guys. 3 tablespoons of sugar. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. We're baking. We're playing with dessert today. You got to get a little messy if you're doing a little baking. That is my philosophy. Okay, and then we are going to add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Honestly, I'm just going to eyeball it. You know 2 things about me, y'all, if you've been around for a while. I love the slow cooker, and I love vanilla. Okay, we're going to mix this together, and chocolate. Chocolate and coffee. Okay. You just kind of want to get that cornstarch, sugar, vanilla mixed into the natural fruit juice, and we're going to set that aside and let it sit for a while we prepare our dough. Right, we are going to start with 1.5 cups of flour. I also like this recipe. You don't have to be super precise with the ingredients. We are going to do 1/3 cup of sugar, white sugar. It's about 1/3. We are going to do 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. This is also a kid-friendly recipe. My daughter loves to help in the kitchen, and this is something that's super easy for her to help make. So we got 1.5-ish. We're gonna add in 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Really, it's just a little more than a pinch. And we're gonna add in 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. This recipe does not call for oats. If you are somebody who likes to do oats, feel free to add some in. I love to have oats as like a crumbly topping, especially apple crisp. You guys, I have the best apple crisp recipe. I kid you not. Go check it out. I will link to it. I don't care what season it is. Apple crisp is amazing. But if you want to add in some oats, feel free to do that on top or in with your fruit blend. Totally doesn't matter. I'm going to give this a quick stir, and then we're going to chop up our butter a little bit. And oh, cinnamon smells amazing. Okay, You want to have 5 tablespoons of cold butter. I'm just gonna kind of pre-measure here. Okay, I like to finely slice it up. I think it comes apart easier and crumbles into your flour mixture better. Just like this. Super easy, and then you can just kind of let it kind of naturally comes apart in your bowl. And we're gonna mix this in until this whole thing gets a little bit crumbly. What I do is I take the remaining 3 tablespoons of that stick of butter and I slightly melt it in the microwave, and then I pour it in, and that really helps draw the flour together. And you can see that your butter, it kind of crumbles up into little itty bitty pieces. It gets the flour stuck to it and will kind of come together pretty well. So spray your slow cooker. I like to use a liner with this recipe especially. Spray it with your cooking spray, and then you're gonna take your flour butter combination here and you're gonna press it. Well, kind of press it. I don't wanna say like super firmly. You're going to kind of press it down a little bit so that it fills the whole bottom layer of your crock pot. You want to save a little bit, maybe about a cup's worth, and we're going to sprinkle that on the top. And then you're going to take your fruit mixture, give it another little stir quick now that the sugar and the vanilla have kind of had a chance to blend in, and then you're going to pour your fruit right over the top of your cobbler batter and spread your fruit out nicely. And then you're going to take your remaining flour mixture, put it on top. This kind of gives it a little bit of that crumbly. If you wanted to use the oats, this is where you would use your oats. And then we need our buttermilk. We're going to do about 1/3 cup of buttermilk. Honestly, I tend to use almost 1/2 cup. I always pour 1/2 cup and slowly drizzle. It doesn't require a ton. You want to slowly drizzle it over the top of your fruit, and then it kind of soaks in. Kind of depends. If you're using that smaller, like it's taller a crock pot, it doesn't really require as much because there's not as much space to cover. And then it will kind of sink and drizzle down in as it bakes. Okay, we are going to put the lid on, and I am going to let this cook on the low heat for about 4 hours. I'll check it at the 2-hour mark. You need to cook it on high. You could do it on high for about 2.5 to 3 hours maybe. Again, if you're going to do high, definitely keep a closer eye on it because you don't want it to burn. And we will come back and check on this later, you guys. It's going to make your whole house smell amazing. Oh my goodness, this smells so good. This is going to be a delicious dessert tonight. Thank you all so much. I hope you love this recipe. Thank you for sharing our recipes over on Pinterest. We'll see you guys next time. Welcome back to In the Kitchen with Grace. Today I am doing a fig ginger brown sugar snack cake. I love this recipe. It's perfect if you're feeling snackish, and it's very versatile. I'm using figs today, but you could use any kind of dried fruit, blueberries, cherries, prunes, dates. So you could interchange any of those ingredients. I'm going to use dried figs today. I had a bag of figs to use up, And I had buttermilk I needed to get used up. I got a container here, and I had done some recipes a couple weeks ago. Totally forgot I had these ingredients on hand, and I love to get creative and use up the stuff that we still have in the fridge and pantry. So I have about a cup's worth of chopped up dried figs, and I'm going to put all of the ingredients and the steps in the description below. We are going to start out with some flour, and we want 2.5 cups of flour. Working in a smaller counter space today. I have honey balsamic glazed ribs going in the slow cooker right here, and it smells so good. Right, there's 2. Grab my 1/2 cup. Okay. Then we are going to do 1.5 cups of brown sugar. Now, if you want to use dark brown sugar, you certainly can. It adds a little more flavor. I just have light brown sugar, so that's what I'm using. You do not need to pack your brown sugar for this recipe. Just keep using this one here. It's about 1.5 cups. Okay, and then we are going to do a stick of butter. You want your butter cold, but semi-soft. Do not melt it in the microwave. You want it to be about room temperature, maybe still slightly chilled, because we're gonna cut it into our flour and sugar mixture. Before I do the butter, you guys, I forgot to do my vanilla. I'm gonna do a teaspoon of vanilla right now. Almost a teaspoon. I ran out of vanilla, y'all. You can interchange your vanilla for imitation almond flavor. You could do, you could even do like an orange. You can interchange your vanilla a little bit. So don't feel like you have to stick to that as well. I happen to be out, so I'm gonna interchange mine with some almond flavoring. Okay, we are gonna mix this together. I'm gonna kind of break up any chunks of brown sugar, kind of pre-mix this together. What I love about this recipe, no eggs. I know, I bake all the time and I'm huge into eggs and baking recipes with eggs. There's no eggs in this one. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut our stick of butter into smaller chunks. I pre-cut it, I feel like it blends a lot easier. Okay. And then with my knife, I am going to kind of just cut it into my flour and sugar. What we're going to do is we're going to end up taking about a cup's worth of this topping crumbles. You'll see as it comes together here, and put it aside in a bowl for the crumbly topping for our cake. This recipe, I call it almost a tea cake style. It goes really good, you know, when you're just got a little sweet craving, not for chocolate, that rare time when you're not really wanting something chocolatey, but it's got a little hint of sweetness, a little bit of fruit. You could totally add nuts to this recipe. Walnuts, pecans, go really good with it. I have done an upside down fig and walnut and rosemary cake before. That is really good. I don't have the recipe for that one up on my channel yet. I'll have to make that in the near future. Okay. Take my spoon, give this a good mix. You want to make sure your butter crumbles are all the way through your mixture here. Okay, we're going to take about a cup's worth out. Put that in the bowl. Okay, now we are going to add in the other 1 teaspoon of vanilla. In my case, I'm doing almond extract. It's totally fine. And then we are going to do then we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of baking soda. If you are newer to baking and you're like, well, what about the eggs? The buttermilk helps your batter to rise while it's baking, so you don't need the eggs. I'm going to add in a little pinch of ginger. I'm literally just adding in a pinch, probably like 1/8 of a teaspoon. I'm going to give this a little mixture. Before I add in my buttermilk, I want to make sure that baking soda has kind of worked its way through. Ooh, it smells so good. Okay, now we are going to do 1 cup of buttermilk. If you do not have buttermilk on hand, you just saw this recipe and you're like, I want to make that. Sounds amazing. Anytime you need to replace buttermilk in a recipe, you can do homemade. You can do 1 tablespoon of white vinegar in like a measuring cup. Fill the rest of the measuring cup up with regular milk. Let it sit for a good 3 to 5 minutes, and that will replace buttermilk for you in your recipe. Little baking trick there. I had this recipe once, and we were down south. I have family from down south, and we were drinking sweet tea with it. That's why I feel like it's a tea cake sort of recipe. It pairs so good with sweet tea. Make sure you mix this in really well. You want that buttermilk really incorporated. Okay, I am going to grab my figs. Okay, I'm just going to dump them in. I cut my dried figs into smaller bite-sized pieces. All right, I'm gonna go grab my baking dish and grease it up quick, and then we will get this going in the oven. All right, I have greased my baking dish, my cake pan, with some Crisco. Anytime you're gonna do a cake that does not have frosting to go on top, I really like to use Crisco. Grease up that pan really nice. That way, when you go to flip it and take it out, it's just got a nice, even top to it. You're not missing any chunks because they got stuck in your cake pan. So feel free to grease liberally because this cake does not have any frosting. It doesn't need it. It is so good on its own. Kind of pat this down a little bit. I am using, I call it a catch release bake pan. It's got a little latch there, and so when you release it, the outside opens up and comes right off the top or the bottom of your pan. You could totally make this in a square baking dish as well. It doesn't have to be round. Again, it's snack cake. This is about just a nice, light, tasty, sweet treat. Nothing fancy. All right, she is spread out even. I'm gonna grab that crumbly topping mixture that we had set aside. We're just gonna dust the top with it. The little chunks of butter will melt, kind of giving a nice golden top. Just like so. Perfect. I'm going to bake this in the oven at 350 degrees. For about 20-25 minutes. I'll do that toothpick test in the center. Toothpick comes out clean. It's fully cooked. If it comes out with a little bit of batter still on it, it needs to cook for a couple more minutes. Keep an eye on it because you don't want the top to burn. I'll show y'all what this delicious cake looks like when it's all ready. Oh my, this is the Fig Ginger Brown Sugar Snack Cake. It baked perfectly. It smells so good. I'm gonna go ahead and cut a slice. There we go. There we have it. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Be sure to find us on Pinterest, In the Kitchen with Grace 1, where you can save all of your favorite recipes and use them for your meal planning later. Be sure to follow us on Facebook as well. Thank you guys so much for sharing our recipes with your family and friends. Hope you all love this one. Welcome to In the Kitchen with Grace. Today I am having a lot of fun in the kitchen. I am baking a lemon cardamom cake in my Bundt pan, and this is so good. We're gonna do a lemon drizzle glaze for the top, and this is just so yummy. I look forward to making this recipe a couple times a year, and we are going to start out today by whisking our eggs and the cream of tartar until it's nice and peaked and soft. I'm going to put all of the steps in the description below along with all of the ingredients for this recipe, so you can be sure to follow along there as well. And I am going to start by separating my eggs. Now this recipe calls for 6 eggs. It's a lot. I'm using a combination of store-bought and farm fresh eggs today, so you're going to see a little difference in egg shell color and the color of the yolks. It's totally okay and normal. I'm going to go ahead and start separating these. I'm going to use a really big bowl for mixing the egg whites and the cream of tartar in, and I'm going to put the yolks into a smaller bowl to save for later. So I have all of my eggs separated. I've got the yolks in one bowl. It's okay if your yolks break a little bit. It's totally fine. I'm going to grab my cream of tartar, and we're going to do half a teaspoon. I'm going to get my hand mixer, and we're going to whip this up until it's nice and peaked. So the egg whites and the cream of tartar are soft and fluffy. They have peaked. I'm going to grab a different bowl here, and I'm going to mix my dry ingredients together. We are going to start with 1.5 cups of flour, all-purpose flour. We are going to add in 2 teaspoons of baking powder. We are going to do half a teaspoon of salt. Then we're going to grab our cardamom. Now, if you live in a small town like me, you may not be able to find this in your smaller small town grocery stores. I got this at Walmart and they only had one kind to select from. So usually I would probably get this from like Hy-Vee, where they have a bigger spice selection. I love the smell of cardamom, and it pairs so well with citrus, which is why we're doing a lemon cardamom cake today. We're going to do a half a teaspoon of the cardamom. Sprinkle that in there. And then I'm going to mix this together by hand. I want to get that all mixed together nicely. Now we are going to cream together our butter and our sugar and our egg yolks. And I am going to use 1 cup of butter softened, which is 2 sticks of butter. I let mine come to room temperature. If you're just taking yours out of the fridge, go ahead and microwave it just a little bit for maybe like 15-20 seconds to get it softened. And we are also going to add in 2 cups of sugar. I'm actually using my half cup measuring cup here, so I'm going to do 4 of these to get my 2 cups. And then we want to add 2 egg yolks at a time into this as we are creaming it together. And one of my egg yolks broke, so it's okay if you do a little bit more or a little bit less. The idea is just to add a little bit at a time, and I'm going to go ahead and mix these together. Now we are going to add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Scoot this over just a little bit. Now we are going to get out our lemon. And for this recipe, you really do want to use a fresh lemon and not your pre-squeezed lemon juice. And I'm just rolling my lemon. Trick for your lemons, y'all, and your limes. Give them a good roll before you go to juice them. We want the zest of my lemon too, so I'm going to take off the little sticker and I'm going to kind of just zest here onto a... So I am working on getting the zest of my lemon. And I love lemon so much, I'm actually doing the zest of 2 because I absolutely love the fresh lemon zest in this recipe. And then I am going to use the juice from this lemon. I'm going to cut it in half. The recipe calls for 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And this really depends on the size of your lemons. This one had a lot of seeds. Make sure you're going to use a strainer if you're going to use this fresh lemon juice. I'm going to use the juice of an entire lemon because this is a bit of a smaller lemon. If I was using a big lemon, I would just use half. I'm gonna go ahead and mix the vanilla and lemon juice, lemon zest into my butter sugar mixture. We are going to use 6 tablespoons of milk, and I'm going to measure this out because you don't want to have too much liquid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we are going to blend this into our mixture. Now we are going to get our dry ingredient bowl. Actually, it's a bit bigger bowl, so I'm going to use this bigger bowl. We're going to put our sugar, butter, lemon batter into our dry flour mixture. Tell you, this recipe is so aromatic. It will make your house smell amazing, and it is so good. Okay, we're gonna gently mix this together. This is a recipe you don't want to over mix. You just want it to come together nicely. You can go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. If you're going to use a regular cake pan or a bundt pan, I would lightly grease it. I like to use Crisco for my bundt pan, and then I sprinkle just a little bit of flour in it. It really helps the cake to just come right out of it. Okay, we're making sure that flour is all incorporated in here. And now we are going to take our egg whites, our lovely whipped egg whites, and we are going to slowly fold them into our cake batter. And I'm going to do about half at a time. If you're looking for some other desserts that are fun and easy to make, I've got an amazing old-fashioned apple crisp recipe. We've done some strawberry cake pops recently, and those are always a big hit with the kids and their friends. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and pour our cake batter into our bundt pan. Again, you can totally use a regular cake pan for this. I'm going around the circle part here evenly, though as this cooks, it will spread out pretty well. I'm going to use the back of a spoon here, and we're going to kind of just give this a little smoothing over. We're going to bake this in the oven at 350 degrees. For my oven, it's really about 27 minutes or so. You may need to adjust temperature on your oven or the baking time. The best test for cakes is the toothpick test. For when it's done, you stick it in. If you're using a regular cake pan, you would do it right in the center. If the toothpick comes out clean, your cake is ready to go and it's done. If it comes out with cake batter still on it, it needs to cook just a little bit longer. Okay, this is where we add extra yumminess to this lemon cardamom bundt cake. We are going to do a lemon glaze for the top. Now, a lot of times you can just do some powdered sugar sprinkled on top of your cardamom lemon cake works perfectly fine. I am all about homemade frosting and glazes. I am going to do a cup of powdered sugar, and I am going to use some fresh lemon zest. I still have some zest on the lemon from when we made the cake, so I'm going to finish zesting this lemon really quick. Scrape that right on into the powdered sugar. And I'm going to cut this lemon. We're going to squeeze the juice out of it right into the powdered sugar. Again, this is a smaller lemon, so it's really got maybe 1.5 tablespoons of juice in it, maybe 2. A little whisk, and I'm going to kind of just whisk this together. And that's all the fresh lemons I have on hand, and so I'm actually going to go get my little jar of lemon juice to add just a little bit more, because you want this to be a drizzle-like consistency. I'm going to go crazy, okay? Just add a little bit at a time, maybe a teaspoon or so at a time, until it's really kind of got the consistency you're looking for. I really like to have a thinner, light glaze here for this lemon cardamom cake. As you can see, it's getting to be fairly liquidy. I'm going to add just a splash more. And that should be good. And then once our cake is cooled, we'll drizzle this on top and it'll be so delicious. So my bun cake is done, and I am using a small cake spatula, and I'm kind of just loosening up around the edges. The key to getting your cake out of your bundt pan is to have coated it really well with your cooking spray or your Crisco along with the flour. And it seems already to be pretty loosened up. Then we're going to flip it. And I have my frosting, my glaze, lemon glaze, and I am going to go ahead and just kind of slowly drizzle this on. I'm going to go very slowly because I don't want to go crazy. Oh, went a little fast there. If you just go along the top, it will drizzle itself along the sides all on its own.